In this series of videos, we're going to be looking at Excel and how to use Excel to create something a little bit different from normal. We're going to create a game of battleships, and that will enable us to use a huge number of features within Excel. Before we can do so, there's certain things we need to introduce you to. The first thing is that Excel, which is sitting in front of you right now, this funny thing with rectangles, scares the hell out of virtually everyone who comes across it. It's not a normal piece of software. Everyone sees the rectangles and goes, oh my god, no. And then what happens is someone says something clever like, oh, this does mathematics for you. And that terrifies everyone half to death. Well, a couple of things to take from that is Excel is not scary. It's an incredibly powerful piece of software. It's not just a simple calculator, and it's certainly not for storing data. If anyone gets you to store just data in Excel, please tell them to stop. It's ridiculous. It's like buying a Ferrari and trying to make it a storage cupboard. You could do it, it's just wrong. Now, what we want, this is an incredibly complex mathematical tool. But what we don't want to do is drown you in all that knowledge. We also want to undo some learning you may have already done. So let's see how we do. Before we can start even to playing battleships, we want to get certain concept across, and that's called addressing. Let's go through the key features of Excel first of all. First of all, does anyone know what this is actually called? This one item here, I know it says sheet 1. What is this referred to within Excel? And if you are shouting out at your screen, then please stop it because actually I can't hear you. The answer is worksheet. This is called a worksheet. I have 3 worksheets by default within Excel when it first starts up. I can have 20, 2000, or I could just reduce it to 1. It really doesn't make any difference. A collection of worksheets is called a... Yep, if you are still shouting, stop it. It's a workbook. That's what it's called. These rectangles have a name. They're called cells, and the cell with the little black border around it is called an active cell. There is only one active cell at any one time in any spreadsheet. So if I go to sheet number 1, oh look, there's a different one. No, that's the only active one because sheet 2 doesn't have an active shell, even a cell. Let me prove that to you. Oh no, it does. There it is. No, let's stop that because it's only active now because I'm on the sheet. Go back to sheet 1, and that's the only active cell. Sheet 2 now isn't active. This is a selection, and you can see the active cell. It's the white cell in the top corner, and if I use the tab key, I can move between them. If you don't know which one's a tab key, that's on the left hand side. It's 2 arrows facing different ways towards a brick wall. If you hold down the shift key, if you don't know what that one is, that's the one with the word shift on it. Hold that down, press the tab key, and you'll go backwards. And there you go. Okay. These are called references, and this is called a column. So A is a reference, E is a reference, M is a reference. Or you can go along. Oh yes, by the way, I know some of you are already sitting there holding this down to see how far it goes. Hope you enjoy the journey all the way to the end. But BQ is a cell reference, it's a column reference. So these are column references. Have you got to the end yet? Not yet. Okay, have fun. Okay, I'm going to go right back to the beginning. These are row references. Oh my good God, you're going to the end now, aren't you? Yeah, they will carry on for a very long time. Yes, they go up by 1 every single time. Woo, isn't that pretty? Okay, back to the top. And there we are. So we've got a column reference and a row reference. I can click on one and I can select them simply by clicking. If I click and drag my finger over, I can select a range of columns. So that's called a range. And if I click drag, I can have a range of rows. If I notice here, this is the name box. Oh look, it's popped up saying name box. It knows. This is the formula bar. Those are really important to refer to. If I select a range, you can see in the name box, yeah, that's this thing up here. Oh look, it's changed again. Go down there, see, and just go, oh look, it's changed again. Yeah, we could do this all day. We're not going to. And at the top corner, it tells you 15 rows by 9 columns. This up here is a special cell. It allows me to select the whole sheet. Let's have a look at something I can do. See these lines here, just between each of these. I can select any one of those. Let's go for that one just for the hell of it. And I can widen or narrow the column. I can do the same thing with a row. With a row. I can select a whole range, and I can do all of that. Notice it's been applied to the whole row. All of that, and that's the whole row. Same thing here, right across there. Let's make them big. Let's make them small. There you go. All done. If I select there, I can do that to all of them. The entire worksheet, not workbook. Don't get it wrong. When we come to shorten this, please notice there's a number. There's a number next to the word width, and there's one in brackets. Pay attention to the one in brackets because that one is directly relative to the one for the rows. So if you're altering columns and rows and want to do what we're going to do, you need to make sure those are exactly correct. Now I'm going to set mine to 40 by 40. What I do is I get complete squares. A bit too small, so it's a bit too big, sorry, so I'm going to go to 30 by 30. There we go. Now, what you can do here is notice I've started at C2. I'm going to put 1, 2. I'm going to pull the mouse over top, click down with the mouse button, drag it over 2, and then let go. Now move my mouse to the bottom corner, click and hold, and drag until that little box says 10, then let go. I'm going to do the same thing down there, 1 and 2, mouse over, click, drag, let go, bottom corner, click, drag, all the way down to 10. Now that's called fill series, and it's a really good way of doing things. Notice that Excel, and oh, by the way, if you click up here and then double click, it will widen it to take the longest piece of text in there. So I'm going to put Tuesday. In fact, do I need to put Tuesday? Let's find out. Let's see what magic system this does. And I didn't need to. Look at that. It knows the days of the week. Double click to widen it again. And there it goes. By the way, it also knows Mon. Jan. Oh, and if you select a range of cells and double click, it will do it for the range. It knows sequences. So 1, 2 we've already seen. It knows to take those and follow those down. If I do 1 and 3, then it recognizes there's 2 numbers between those two, so the next number will be 5 and so on. And if you wish to put in complex number sequences such as 1, 2, so the gap of 1, and then 4, which is a gap of 2, and let's give it another one, so add 3, 7, then look at how Excel can handle that. So I've added 1, which gave me 2, and I added 2, which gave me 4, and I added 3, which gave me 7, so I add 4, I should get 8.5. Yes! No! That's because Excel can't handle complex formulae. So I don't think it's going to do your mathematics homework for you, but it is very useful fill series just to tidy things up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these down there. I'm going to use the border tool here. I'm going to do that down here as well to put a border tool in. I'm also going to choose this entire corner here, and I'm going to tell it to be centered horizontally and centered vertically. Now you might be screaming at the screen again, please stop doing that, and telling me that this is going to be a TimesTable Square, and it is. It's going to be a TimesTable Square with a difference, because a TimesTable Square takes this number and multiplies it by this number. 1 times 1 is 1. Oh yes. But I'm not going to sit here and type all the values in. That's really boring. So I'm going to tell Excel I want to do some work. Excel is going to do some work. When I press equals, this tells Excel you are now going to do some mathematics. Not me, you, the computer. I'm now going to take the mouse. I'm going to click on the first thing. I want to take that number. And notice it's used a cell reference, B3. I'm going to multiply that by this cell. I've clicked again. That's gone green. So that's now told me it's a different reference, C2. Press enter. It's now multiplied the contents of B3 with the contents of C2. Let's have a look. So those cell references are incredibly useful. Notice also now I've clicked on it how this has gone green. So that has been incredibly useful. Stop doing that. But that's been incredibly useful just to see how I can get all of this working. So that's got the colors there nicely working. Now that means that if I do that, I can drag the formula down and we can see that 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 2 is 2. And that's exactly what we're expecting the system to do. That also works, by the way, if I pull this way. So I now can see that 2 times 1 is 2. And this is really good because we did this for ages. So we did this, learnt this in school, then Excel is following us. So what I'm going to do is that shows us that fill series works. So I'm going to pull this all the way down and I can confirm, hold on. I can confirm nothing because I can't see that last number. Let's just double click. Oh, look at that. 1 times 10 is a bleeding big number. That looks like 3,628,800. So that's quite a big number. I actually thought 1 times 10 was 10. But clearly, this complex mathematical tool knows more than I do. Or something's gone wrong. So let's readjust this back to 30. Let's take it just a little bit past and then take it a little bit back in. This, by the way, means there's an error or it can't display the whole number. There is no error. The system's working as it should do. What is happening is, let's have a look at this. I'm multiplying 1 times 1, which is what I wanted. Press escape comes after that, by the way. This should be 1 times 2. But let's have a look at what's actually happened. It's not gone to this cell. It's gone to the next one down. And that's because as I pulled the formula down, the cell references, the row numbers changed. This one said B3, C2. And when I got to this one, it says B4. So 3 became 4 and 2 became 3. This is called, I'll put this on here, relative addressing. And it's really good. If you take something downwards, it changes the cell reference in correspondence with it. If you drag it across, it changes the column reference. So obviously columns aren't given those. So let's imagine that we're in column B. It would become C or D or E. But relative addressing has a problem. It doesn't help us in these kind of situations. So surely there's a way of switching off. Well, there is. We don't want C2. We're quite happy with B3, B4, becoming B5, becoming B6. So I'm not worried about the B at all. B6, B5, B4, B3, they can stay. I don't care that C, C2, I do care it's become C3, but the C is perfectly correct. So I don't need to change that. What I've got to do is stop this 2 from becoming a 3. And I do that by putting a dollar in front of it. And this dollar means absolute. Absolutely 2. So this one says equals B3 times C absolutely 2. Do not allow that 2 to change. If I now drag that downwards, 1, 2. Now hopefully you'll begin to say, oh yes, those are the right numbers. That is working for me. Oh, thank you very much. That is because the 2, as I go down the formula, you can see it's not changed. C $2 down to the M1 still says C $2. That's good. Let's drag that right across. And we can see that 5 times 8 is 960. Now, if you think it is, you need to go back to school because 5 times 8 is actually 40. So what's happened here? Well, it's the same thing. Let's have a look. That was C2 times B3. But B3 has now become C3 because of relative addressing. The B became C. So we want to stop this B from changing. So we put a dollar in front of that. We need to make sure that it replicates all the way down. Replicates all the way across. Notice, by the way, you can't do the whole lot in one go. You have to do down and across, or you can do along the top and then down. It's up to you. You need to get those right. This dollar is called absolute addressing. I'm going to switch the caps lock off. Absolute addressing, and that's using the dollar. So absolute addressing, this formula here is the same formula as here, and I've locked certain aspects. This means I only need one formula to do 100 cells. I'm being lazy. Excel's doing all the work. I didn't have to remember that 9 times 9 is 81, or more importantly, that 7 times 7 is 49, because personally, I hate the 7 times table. I love the 9 times table, but not the 7. What you can do now is you can select the rows and you can do some colouring in. Woohoo! So much fun. I'm colouring. Yeah. Well, while I'm going around colouring my times table in and you're colouring yours in and you're trying to just go over this all again, I will see you in the next video where we'll start to use this information to help us build a battleship.